So, as we begin to put a bow on the regular season, one of the most fascinating conversations, in my opinion, is USC and what they've experienced this season. When we talk about the Trojans entering into this season, it seemed a foregone conclusion amongst USC fans that the Trojans would be competing for a Pac-12 championship and vying for a college football playoff spot. However, that's absolutely not what we saw. And as we sit here currently, we have to acknowledge that this is the biggest offseason of Lincoln Riley's young head coaching career, and today we need to break down why. But before we can, as always, y'all know the drill. I have got to hear from you. Hop down to the comments, give me a Y for yes or an N for no. Do you believe USC will get the defensive coordinator hire right? And let me know which names are standing out to you. If you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe. Hit that bell notification. I do constant college football content. You don't want to miss any of it, and I would love to have you a part of this growing community. It is, in my opinion, one of the best college football communities on the entire platform. Having said all of that, let's jump right into this. And as I alluded to in the intro, USC is such a fascinating conversation because of the dichotomy you experience when you talk about the expectations heading into the season as compared to where USC ended up. This was a team that many people thought would be making their entrance into the college football playoffs. This is a team that many people thought would be vying for a Pac-12 championship, yet that's not at all where we see them. Instead, it's a team that has several different crossroads in front of them. One such crossroad is moving conferences from the Pac-12 to the Big Ten, where you're not escaping some of these powerhouses in the Pac-12 that we saw this past season. Oregon, Washington, UCLA all making the move with you. So not only are you going to a conference that historically has been better, that is tougher, but the bigger brands in your own conference that have been excelling this season, they're making the move with you. Which means that conference, which was already hyper-competitive, is going to be even more competitive. Now, part of that is in thanks to the likes of USC going over there. I'm just painting the picture that you're moving with major brands that are currently excelling, that are trying to compete for a college football playoff this year, that will be competing for a Pac-12 championship. On top of that, you still have Michigan, you have Ohio State, you have Penn State, you have all those historic Big Ten brands, and you have the style of football that the Big Ten plays, which gets me to my next crossroads. And that's the absence of a defensive coordinator for USC. Now, make no mistake, Lincoln Riley and the USC Trojans made the right move, parting ways with Alex Grinch. Many of you will know me from my questioning of USC's defense and Alex Grinch, wondering if he was the right guy for Lincoln Riley. Time and time again, when we'd have the conversation, I'd constantly point to Alex Grinch's career, asking the question, is he going to be able to get it right this year? Because we've seen Alex Grinch have success in the Pac-12, but almost a decade ago. Up until then, he's been trying to recapture that success he experienced, and it just didn't work out at USC. I absolutely think Lincoln Riley made the right move, especially with a move to the Big Ten on the horizon. Because there was no way USC was going to find success doing what they did this season in the Big Ten and thinking that they would get any different of results. In fact, I think the results would be markedly worse. So I completely agree with the notion that you have to go and find a different defensive coordinator. Now the question is, who? Well, we talked about this earlier in the live stream, but I really want to talk about three names in particular. Three names that, in my opinion, move the needle. And the first is the name that so many USC fans are hoping for, and that's Jim Leonhard. Because everybody who's in need of a defensive coordinator would love nothing more than to hire Jim Leonhard. Whenever we look at USC, offense is certainly not the issue. Now, there are going to be questions for this Lincoln Riley offense heading into the Big Ten. You don't have Caleb Williams, and unfortunately, he was the catalyst not only of your offense, of your entire team. And yes, you've recruited the quarterback position fantastically well if you're Lincoln Riley, but I think we can all be honest here and admit that Caleb is different. Caleb is a different style of quarterback altogether, and if you're banking on having a Caleb Williams walk through the door every 3 years, you're asking a lot of your recruiting department. You're asking a lot of the young man walking through those doors, because Caleb Williams was sensational. He was special. And once again, I like the quarterback recruiting that Lincoln Riley has done, but Caleb Williams is a little bit of a generational prospect in terms of all the things he can do. So there's going to be some major changes happening at USC, and Jim Leonhard would be a name that absolutely moves the needle for USC fans. He would come in here, shore up that defense, and allow Lincoln Riley to look at his offense and say, okay, we don't have to be the reason we go get this win. We can take a step back, find out who our guy is, and start developing them into something conducive to success. I am so excited to see Lincoln Riley try and get in a strong defensive coordinator that will allow him to take pressure off of his offense. I'm really interested in seeing what a Lincoln Riley offense looks like when they don't have to be the reason they win every portion of every game. It will take pressure off of the players. It will take pressure off of Lincoln Riley. And Jim Leonhard is a name that will ignite a ton of excitement in the fan base. But he's not alone. You have Tom Allen. Now, this is a name that a lot of people aren't going to be as keyed in on, but Tom Allen is a guy that has got a ton of coaching experience, and he was just let go from his current coaching position. He would come in here and offer so much experience. And at the end of the day, experience can be a powerful tool. He's been a defensive coordinator. He understands defensive football. And because of that, I think when you look at the experience with all of the new moves USC will be making, moving from the Pac to the Big Ten, and then fundamentally changing the way your team operates, because that's what's going to happen. You cannot disregard defense and win college football playoff games. That's why after USC's first game this year, I brought up the defensive stats it takes to win a national championship, and I said, unfortunately, USC, I don't see it in the cards this year. Well, that's got to change going into next year, and that will lead to fundamental differences. Having someone like a Tom Allen that has been a coach, that has that experience, can be very, very, very positive. And now let's talk about the last name that, in my opinion, really moves the needle. Probably not as much as Jim Leonhard, but a close second, in my opinion, and that's Zach Arnett. Zach Arnett was just the head guy at Mississippi State. They let him go not even a year into the job, which I found interesting. We talked about this all the time. Mississippi State had to be operating under the assumption that they needed to give Zach Arnett time. They just went from Mike Leach's offense, rest his soul, to a defensive-minded team. That was going to take a long time to make that transition. Alas, Mississippi State did not give him that time, which means Zach Arnett is on the market. He just served as a head coach, albeit not for very long. He has been a long-time defensive coordinator. He's put together some really good defenses, and he has ties to the state of California. And if you come into our Monday evening shows, Jant Sports and myself talk all the time about the importance of Lincoln Riley recruiting his own state. Whenever Lincoln Riley left Oklahoma to go to USC, one of the reasons he gave was that he needed to go somewhere where they had access to the most talented players in all of high school football. Well, luckily for USC, the Trinity League is right there, and I think you'd be hard-pressed to name me a high school football league any more talented and better than that Trinity League. It is that good. You've got to win those battles. Right now, other teams are going in there and winning the battles for the best players in the best league in all of high school football. If you're USC, you have to own those battles. You're not going to win every battle in your state, but you have to win the battles you can't afford to lose. And right now, USC is losing battles they can't afford to lose for players that are going out of state and turning heads when they get to their new institutions. Someone like Zach Arnett may be able to help you because he has ties to the state of California. He can hit the ground running in recruiting, and he's been a coach in the SEC. And whether you believe it or not, that carries some sort of cachet. You hear players talk about that they want to go play in the SEC. Heck, I have heard several prospects in the past say, no, I just want to go play in the SEC. Getting a coach that has that SEC experience, that can be something that moves the needle. Look, at the end of the day, in my opinion, this is the most important offseason of Lincoln Riley's young head coaching career. And the why is very simple. It's because now he has to go in a completely different direction for the first time. For the first time, Lincoln Riley has to look in the mirror and come to terms with what's staring back at him. And that's a team that did not perform at the level so many had hoped, and a team that has issues that needs to be fixed. How they go about fixing those issues, I am fascinated to see. But we need to acknowledge Lincoln Riley has been hyper-successful, and he has a hyper-successful offense, and if he can pair it with a good defense, it's going to be a lot of fun. Hop down to the comments, let me know what you're thinking. That's it. See ya.